were able to go through two witnesses. First one was the minister for the Asante region, Simon Osei Mensah, followed by our very own Erastus Asaredonko, who was there when the disturbances were kicking off on the day that people got shot by the military. Let's hear excerpts from yesterday's hearing.
I was also informed that one Abe, A-B-E-E, Abe Wakaz, W-A-K-E-Z, Wakaz, went to Accra to organize a press conference that the deceased, that is Kaka, was a member of the Fix the Country campaigners. It was also alleged that Kaka was a member of the National Democratic Congress in Ejura. He returned on the night of 28 June 2021 and reached Ejura on 29 June 2021.
Honorable, please, who are you talking about? Who returned?
Abe Wakaz from Accra back to Ejura and went to the cemetery with the youth. And after the burial of the body of the late Kaka, requested the youth to march to town and start their actions. And that is where the whole crisis started. And we got to the point where we are now.
So that was Simon Osei Mensah. He's the minister for the Asante region. That was part of his testimony to the committee that started their sittings yesterday. Ray.
Is perhaps the most important part of yesterday's engagement.
Oh, bless you. Do you want us to come back to? Are you okay?
No, I'm okay.
Sure?
This is police to go and do work together. And this is because I was informed right from 1992 by the procedures that have operated in this part of the country for a very long time. So I didn't have any problem sending them there. I sent them based on some intelligence. And the intelligence suggested that even the day before, the police station was attacked. So obviously there will be some problem. I mean, on one side, it contradicts the claim that some people in the country, in that part of the country, asked for the soldiers to be sent there. Because already that's what we've been told, that when we realize there's a problem, we ask for help immediately. So
that's what we're told by the MCE,
yes,
by the way.
That's the point. So that's the first contradiction that jumped at me immediately. Secondly, we also got the clarity from him that, well, I didn't send them there based on the established rules and procedures that we've always worked with. And that even though I'm clothed by the Security and Intelligence Act to act in certain circumstances, I did not really follow the procedures that were supposed to be in there. His argument is that this was an emergency. An emergency that required immediate action without having to convene any committee or whichever grouping to act in some circumstances required. So he made all of those things clear. Then he justified it. He said, but for their presence, there would have been more damage. Again, but for how they treated the people, or how the gentleman who was in the water cannon, but for he retreating, he would have killed more people because he was in a very dangerous zone. He also made another profound statement that the people attacked the security officials on the ground. So the security officials had no option but to protect themselves with minimal force. That resulted in the two dying. So these are the most important statements he made. To back the claim that the people attacked the security officials, he sought to submit a video. This video is the water cannon one, which appeared that it was some people were pursuing the water cannon and was moving different directions. And then later on, I mean, it's a couple of seconds, so that video ended. When he was asked about the origins of the video, he said somebody gave it to him. He couldn't disclose the identity of the person. He moved on clearly to state that they should presume it's coming from him because there's no way he's going to disclose that. Then they persuaded him that we could do the person's engagement in camera. We want to authenticate this and verify. Then he moved on to say that I will discuss with the person, Because I think that if I reveal his name or his identity, it might jeopardize my role in the region as head of security and also the regional minister. That was in a sum what he said. To be fair, it was not a very completely helpful testimony or witness engagement, because the sequence we wanted was, why were they sent there fully? What factors did you consider more importantly? And did you grade these factors, and did the security all come together to make a decision? Let's not forget, part of what happened had been reviewed by the Ayawaso West Work Commission, and recommendations on how to deal with intelligence, how to process it, who are the people who should be involved in intelligence gathering and assessment, and the deployment, all have been set out clearly in that report. So if that report was implemented in this case, or at least a part of it, I'm sure it would have gotten somewhere better than what we actually had on the ground. So giving us full information on what really happened was problematic. It appeared that the minister had more to say, but he didn't want to say it. Then came to his most important evidence, which backed the claim that the security people acted not wrongly. They acted because they needed to save their lives. That resulted in the deaths of the people there. If you put it together, he was perhaps the most important person who could tell us that at authority level, this is what happened. But he didn't have as much detail, because he gave evidence that, I was not really on the ground. I was not also really even in the region, because I traveled, and all of this decision had to make what they call it, through phone calls and through other means. And that is how we got to know what happened with Simon Osei-Mensah. Up to now, we do not know, for example, which people shot and killed the two. Specifically their names, rank possibly, and whether and why they did so specifically. We do not know. He didn't state that. In fact, there is a similar argument that was made during the Ayawaso West Work Commission. You know, as of the time the commission had sat, we were told that they had not done full debriefing of the officers that went on the ground there to do what they had done. It's a similar thing that he said today, that, we've had meetings, but we've not really gone to the point of telling you that it was Kojo or Winston that held a gun in this position and shot and killed. That means they've not accounted for the day and their actions fully to even he as head of the security in the region. That is basically the sum of the activities that happened on the day. Maybe when the actual security people go before the committee, we will get them telling us that these are the individuals who are involved in the act. Because in Ayawaso West Work, we got to know names like Double, full name Akomia. We got to know all the people who had actually done things that were in question and were being interrogated. So the expectation is that we'll get all of these. Perhaps the difference will be that, the posture of the minister. The posture that suggested that, I can or may not give you information depending on what I consider right. It's because the presumption has been committees do not have the powers and the authority of a commission of inquiry. The question will be, why didn't you go for a commission of inquiry? Because if a commission of inquiry can ask you to come before them, compel you to attend there as witness, then the issue of whether or not he will reveal the identity of the person wouldn't have come up at all, because they could have done so and gotten us the information without all the I'll go and consult the person and all of that coming through. So basically, this is where we are. If you ask me to rank, not a very revealing, not a very detailed expectation that we had, that the man was going to give us every single information we needed to know from authority level. We didn't get all of that. Maybe when we resolve the other matters with the other security agencies, all the other information will come out. But I went away with the claim that, it's not everybody that will come before the committee that will be fully honest, that will fully give information, that will not hold anything back like Erastus did.
Well, we'll be joined by Evans Mensah shortly via Zoom because we want to certainly analyze yesterday's activities in detail. But Winston, you were in the newsroom watching most of it, weren't you?
As I was actually seated with Raymond with Mama V as we watched all of that on the Joy News channel. And so the regional minister also made this point, and he was asked a question whether he had spoken to the MC, whether he spoke to the MC, and his response was that he spoke to the MC after the event. Now, few questions would come to mind. So, based on what decision, because we know that the MCE is the chairman of the Municipal Security Council. Now, did the chairman of the Municipal Security Council inform the Regional Security Council chairman that military persons will be needed to come there? The minister admitted that he couldn't have organized a meeting, one, because he was not in Accra. He talks about operational challenges, and also says that because we do not have deputy regional ministers now, once he's away, it becomes a problem, because in the past, if he wasn't around, he would use his deputy to probably convene a meeting and say, this is what we have to do. The other question is, so he picked intelligence about an attack. He said he picked intelligence that they were going to attack a police station. That's on the 28th of June. The disturbances happened on the 29th of June. From the 28th of June to the 29th of June, one of the things I would have wanted to hear, for instance, would be what kind of, preparations were put in place. So, all kind of actions were taken. You knew that this is what was going to happen right from the 28th of June.
Yeah.
What actions did you take? Did you just end it there, or you decided to just say, okay, well, I'm in Accra, and so once it happens, then we start and say we're sending the soldiers there? The video, yes, Raymond has talked about that, so I'm not going to talk about that also. But I think, having said all of these, yes, the regional minister appeared before the committee. The committee said if it becomes necessary, they would invite the regional minister again. I think it would be necessary for the committee to invite the regional minister again, because there are other questions that, for those of us who are watching, if we get answers to these, we'll have a better understanding of what really transpired.
Yeah.
Was there communication from, he said, well, I did that, but he says, I spoke to the MC after the event. I'd want to know, did he speak to him? Before the event, when he got information about, when he got intelligence about what was going to happen on the 28th of June, what did he do about that? And the military, the 7 persons who went there, Erastus indicated it's about 7 people. I am sure the military would know those persons.
Yeah.
And today we're told the police would be there. I'm sure the military would also be there. We'll find, we'll get answers to these and many more questions.
Right. So, we certainly want to know what you think about how things went on this first day. Okay, so look, it's early days for anybody to be passing judgment on the competence or otherwise of this committee, but we can certainly assess their work as they go. Okay, so they spoke to 2 people yesterday, the minister and Erastus Asaridonko. What do you think of those particular interrogations? Personally, I walked away with more questions. For example, and I think you alluded to this, the MCE said on public record that he and his colleagues on MUSEC are the ones who decided that the military should be brought in.
Not an impromptu decision. Proper, structured.
Yes.
According to security intelligence, that's how they're supposed to operate.
That's right.
Security committee meets, they make a decision.
That's what he said to us. But now we're hearing the regional minister say, no, I ordered them. So we have 2 accounts here, publicly made, and it would have been of interest to me to hear the committee probe to determine which one is accurate. Also, the regional minister said that he said that the soldiers should join the police because it's an emergency. I would have liked to know, for the purpose of understanding procedure, because the committee must make recommendations, I would have liked to know what constitutes an emergency, so that in the future we will know under what circumstances the military, should be called.
I know when he was asked, did you have an emergency meeting to be able to call in the military? He said it was impossible. That's what he says.
Yes, it was impossible to have a meeting.
The emergency meeting, even
Yes.
an emergency, a
Yes.
meeting in that particular category, to be able to call the meeting.
Interesting.
To be able to make a decision.
Also, why did he not call for more police? The military is an option, right? So what led him to choose that option? If he knew a day before that the police are going to need support, one of the options of supporting the police is to bring in more police. There's a formed unit.
Yeah.
And you knew 24 hours in advance. So what informed his decision to pick the military instead of more police? I would have liked to know that. Who was in charge on the ground? Who was commanding the men on the ground? Since you ordered the military there, who was in charge? Was it the police commander, the military commander? What's his name? I would have liked to know these things. Were you getting real-time updates wherever you were? since you have ordered the military into a town, were you getting real-time updates? How did you react when you heard of the shooting? When did you hear of the shooting? These are details that I would have liked to know. He knows about this Wahaz or Wahak or this person
who is supposed to be related to Kaka.
Right.
Yes.
He knows that this person traveled to Accra. He knows about the person's movements when the person arrived back in the village. He knows that this person on the day ordered the men, the people after the funeral to go on demonstration. He knows
after the burial.
Yes, he knows about activities that occurred on the day, but he doesn't know who fired the shots. The people he ordered, he doesn't know which of them fired the shots. Anyway, these are just questions I would have liked to ask. Evans Mensah joins us. He's the head of our politics desk. Evans, it's good to have you. Good morning. Thanks for waking up early.
Good morning, Kojo, and good morning to Raymond. Where is Winston?
Yes, Winston and Ray. Yeah. So you've already had engagements with several people, both on Newsnight, Top Story, and on PM Express. What views are you forming so far of day one of the committee sitting?
I mean, the committee itself it was something that was it was a right call by the president to direct that this happened, that the sitting itself goes ahead. It is a part of a solution that everybody has asked for, and so obviously when it was set up, I definitely was in support of it. I know those who criticized and said the commission of inquiry was more appropriate, but the right thing had happened. In fact, I wanted to, in essence, the committee's work would either prove me wrong or otherwise. And so will be the case for those who say this committee, the way it's structured in itself, a commission would have been more appropriate. You wanted to give the committee the benefit of the doubt, because these are pretty eminent people, people who should know their stuff. We have an appeals court judge. We have Vladimir Judanso, who we've dealt with for so many years, and of course we have Juliet, who we know less of. But of course, we put out her background and her profile. She seemed to be somebody who should be able to dispatch her work professionally and should know her stuff. So I was waiting to see the work that he actually do. And yesterday was day one. I must say from the onset that day one was extremely disappointing. And I've heard the questions that you've asked already. There's so many other questions that went begging without asking, especially when they had the man who says, I authorized the military to go in. So many questions. I mean, for me, fundamentally, one of the most important thing the committee should be probing is about the death of two people. One person's leg has been amputated, several more injured. For me, that is the crux of this. You cannot do anything beyond probing how two people died. Remember, Ayawaso West Wagon, when it was established, we did not have fatality in that. We had injuries. It was brutal. It was bloody, but nobody died. We have a case of Ejura where we have two people dead. And for me, that should be the focus of the committee. But I'd even say, I'm pretty sure that you have laid out what the terms of reference is. The terms of reference was very simple. One, probe forthwith circumstances leading to the unfortunate occurrences of last week Tuesday. That was clear. And if you narrow it down, it leads to fundamentally two people died, several people were injured. And then there are other things that you could look into, the process itself, etc. So when you have the commander, the man who says, I authorize the people, you want to find out fundamentally how this happened. How did we get to a point where two people died and several injured? Hoping that the committee did not do. I want to cite one, for example. He talks about, so there was a case of, you want to understand, so the military was called in. What provoked them to use live rounds and fire the way they did? What provoked them? What was the justification? He offered one justification that I heard, and if anybody had something else, you could share it. One of the one he said was, a video he claims to have, which we've seen on social media, which I played on PM Express last week, the day it happened, of a water ride, the railed van that disperses the water that was moving, and the youth were seen in that video running after it and pelting it with stones, sticks, etc. That, in essence, was the only evidence he offered to suggest anything close to a provocation or a reason why the military guys were forced to use live rounds. That is the closest he came to that. But you see, the question that if the committee had really prepared, and that the deficiencies in the preparation towards this really was manifest, because there was a direct contradiction there between what the regional minister had said and what the police had said, because live rounds were used and people died. The police issued a statement shortly after this happened when people died, and in their statement, they just didn't stop at saying people threw stones and clubs, etc. They said the people charged with firearms. I want to read it for the avoidance of doubt. They say some irate youth blocked the main road for Ejura. Again, the minister, I didn't hear the minister make that claim. The police moved in with military reinforcement to quell the situation, but the irate youth charged on the security officers with all manner of implements, including firearms. And we know in these matters, it is when the military or police officer feels that his life is under threat, when somebody, proportionate force, right? Reasonable force, the person is firing on you with a firearm, then of course, there is a justification to use live rounds, as some security experts and the police themselves have said. But when you have the man who says he had intelligence come before the committee and did not use that, he did not also come to say that there was a use of, people use firearms from the protesters, that is something you need to probe. You need to definitely bring that up and ask him directly. You've laid out your evidence. Nowhere did you say that the protesters use firearms, for example. So how do you reconcile? You are the ultimate here, right? You were making the ultimate decisions. How do you reconcile that use of force with the reasons you've given, which only boils down to people throwing stones? So people throw stones at a vehicle that was moving, so you respond with live rounds. And if you did that, how do you reconcile that, what you told us, with lack the firearm element that the police had alleged, with the police's own claim? There's a conflict there, and they didn't probe that. And so the man comes and talks, and in essence, had the free pass and left, right? I mean, so for me, there were a lot of it that was, for me, went begging, that they didn't probe. And I don't know if you guys have talked already about, rather, they reserved the interrogation for the journalists, which again was just.
In fact,
going to that.
That's a great introduction to the next thing we're about to hear, which was their interrogation of the journalist, Erastus Asaridonko, their second witness.
From the video clip that we watched, it has been tagged, fix the nation, whatever. How do you relate the fix the nation agenda to what happened in Ejura?
My Lord, if I understand your question, it means the fix the country campaign. My Lord, initially what we learned was that the Kaka, the person whose death caused this protest, was a member of the Fix the Country campaign. We have not been able to independently verify that. But what we know is that he was campaigning and he was a social media advocate. In fact, the family showed us some of his videos. He took some of the videos while standing close to uncompleted projects, bad roads, and then he will add a narration to the video and then post it on social media. If that is what the campaigners tag as a member, then I don't know, because I don't know what the modalities are for somebody to be a member of that campaign group.
Thank you. But you see, you did not take steps to ascertain whether he was indeed a member of the Fix the Country campaign, whatever. But in the video that we watched, Joy has tagged it. Wait, you see, there is a portion where they have written something. Yes, we are all Kaka. Police arrest two suspects involved in attack of hashtag Fix the Country campaigner. You understand? But this is a matter you are now telling us that you did not take steps to ascertain whether in fact Kaka was a member of the Fix the Country campaign group. So why should your outfit in this particular clip indicate there that some two persons have been arrested in connection with the murder of Kaka, a member of the hashtag Fix the Country campaign?
My Lord, that was the tagline for Kaka and what he was doing. And in fact, the Fix the Country campaigners came out with a release indicating that he was a member, and that was the job he was doing. Later on, when we went to Ejura, his family, some of his family members indicated he wasn't a member. Some said he was a member. So there is that confusion as to whether he was a member, he's not a member. But what he did and what he was doing on social media and on his pages is similar to what the Fix the Country campaigners are doing.
Joy 99.7 FM.
That was part of the exchange between Erastus Asare-Donkor and the committee when he came before them as their second witness. Ray.
So first, I got the impression, and it was clear throughout his answers to all the questions, honest, helpful, and someone who is willing to help a committee come to the full facts, establish the truth, and get to the most important part of this. When it started, I wasn't apprehensive at all because I heard his answers. There were things he saw. He didn't presume, he didn't debate, he didn't actually go out there to come and say that established standards that could have been or who were supposed to be or had any other engagement. So ideally, when you call a journalist who was on the ground, the presumption would be that tell us what you saw. Because he's not your expert or whichever one. He's just there to tell you what he saw. And that's what he did 100% throughout. I got shocked when it reached the point it suggested to me some of the questions that either the committee is not mindful of the job that journalists do, or probably do not have any proper appreciation of what it takes to report from a scene like that. So the question about he being on the ground, reporting, bullets flying over, and he's supposed to, in the course of that, put a call back to the office and say, well, show me your tags and let me see which ones you put on TV, whether it corresponds to what I'm actually supposed to be saying on the ground. I mean, when you put those scenes together, it only gives me an indication of a lack of appreciation of what journalists do and the very circumstances that he found himself. That aside, and see, it's in the background. Prior to setting up this committee and dealing with what's supposed to be, some had questioned the motive for it. Others say committees like this only end up whitewashing, and if they don't whitewash, they end up actually masking the main issue. In the throes of the engagement, it reached the point I was led to doubt whether or not the committee was still on course with this objective. And this is why. Now, you ask a journalist for tips. I mean, why would that ever occur to you that the journalist is in the business of doctrine? editing or probably putting tapes together in a way to make a case different, what will be his interest? I mean, it's not a party to any of the sides. He's not from Ejura. He doesn't belong to Kake's family. He is not a party to the security agencies and he's not part of them. So the journalist who's supposed to submit tapes, the query to him is to know, are you sure these are not doctored ones? Why would you doctor a tape? So I found some of them very curious. It suggested to me the suspicion of the activity of the guy whose only business was to go and report and tell you and cooperate with the committee. And if you strike it against how the committee was very, not laissez-faire, but very cooperative with the minister, it was as if we are out there to get him. If not so, or we are out there to paint a picture that, we might have gotten all of this wrong. That it could well be that it was the reportage that created a situation of a very big issue happening, and that really brought more people on the streets, which ended up leading to the death of the people. And so you cannot really blame the security, you cannot blame the people, but we all need to improve the system. When you do that, when you ask some of these questions, and also the specific statements that were made, that, this is it's not ethical. A determination I found completely unnecessary and irrelevant in the case. I mean, not even on the fact that it is not true anyway. But it sends a signal that you are there to feed into what people have said and complained about prior to the setup of this committee. I'm hoping that as the days go by, there will be a proper appreciation of and the burden that this committee has to prove to people that it is not business as usual, but it's out there to do a job in the interest of the people. We know that it is a minister's committee. We also expect that the level of independence in determining in an inquisitorial way the full facts of a situation will come out to the good of the whole nation. But let me be clear, I was disappointed in some of the questions, some of the comments, and also some of the posturing, which suggested that you were unethical. In fact, it reached a point, did you love your job? No, yes, something similar to that. Do you think that the right thing was done? And it was also required of him an opinion on the editorial policy. And clearly, one other thing that you can take is that I really think he composed himself very well. Many would have had difficulties and expressed him clearly and indicatedly to the questions that were being asked, and the tone with which they were being asked, and the posture with which they were being asked.
Yes, he found a civil way of answering questions that were difficult to understand, let alone answer. I guess that's what you're saying, right? Yeah. Listen, if you're listening to us right now, you've got your phone in your hand, go to Facebook and join our live feed. Okay, we'd love for you to watch this interaction here in the studio, and obviously comment and share our live feed. We'll be sharing some of your comments. We'll be noting the interesting things you say under the live feed. We're going to share a few of them shortly, but go check out the live feed and share it, okay, so that your friends can join us. Evans is on Zoom and Winston is here. Churchill.
Yeah, so I've been thinking, and the terms of reference of the committee is to investigate the events leading to the 29th June Ejura disturbances that resulted in 2 persons dying and others getting injured.
Yeah.
Events leading to the disturbances. So what matters is what happened at Ejura. And what happened at Ejura? That soldiers were there, that 2 persons were shot and killed in the process. That's what you want to find out. What really led to this, and come out with recommendations. The simple point is a bullet killed somebody.
Yeah.
A slug that, a media house put there would not have done that. Even when Erastus had indicated that, look, this is not done by me because I am on the field. And being on the field, it means whatever happens in Accra, where it was done, I wouldn't know. And he explains that, look, the situation was such that a lot of things were happening around me. And as you can see, it got to a point in time where we're actually running away, and our camera was still taking shots. Then you go further and ask, but what is your opinion on what was written? The man says, that is a decision taken by the editorial team in Accra. He says, yes, but what do you make of that? And then the next question, the other questions about, you know that journalists have made statements that have led to wars and all of that. Sounded like this is a man on trial. Sounded like the problems we're faced with were as a result of media coverage of disturbances in Ejura. Meanwhile, you have been tasked to investigate events that led to the disturbances which were covered by the media.
So maybe they are of the view that the tagging of Kaka as a fix the country campaigner led to the shooting. It led to the military opening fire with live rounds.
Well, the military on the ground.
Okay. So can I answer that? Can I answer that question?
Hold on. Just a moment. I'll come to you in a moment, Evans.
Kojo, the military on the day we're on the field, and to be very honest, I understand the question you're asking, but to be very honest and to be very fair, how was the military going to watch Fix the Country on TV in order to take a decision?
And as a result,
take that. That's something that would never happen. And that, for me, is why I agree with Raymond. The committee's job is clearly, cut for them. Do this. And it is a ministerial committee. People had raised questions about the relevance and significance of this committee. I think, and I'm of the conviction, that the way they went around the Erastus situation raised a lot of questions about the committee itself and not the work of the journalists.
Evans.
Yeah, so to that question directly, first of all, you say it's possible that that's what they were thinking, that somehow the media coverage and the use of the hashtag, Fix the Country in the midst of that protest may have, quoting the terms of reference, led to the circumstances, unfortunate occurrences on the day. To be definite, that is the ultimate goal of that line of question. And people who didn't watch that second appearance by my colleague Erastus. And by the way, let's jump my heart out for Erastus. We shall applaud Erastus, because without Erastus, the committee's work will be reduced to she said, he said, I said, she said, and that's it. It is only because of Erastus that we have all that video evidence that the committee is going to rely on. It says almost 3 hours of recording live. And by the way, he gave them everything and he decided to choose. Again, it shows the shoddiness of the work that the committee did yesterday. The committee and the technical team that was helping them. And the chairman himself was at pains to stress. He was pained that he actually showed the video. And the guys who were controlling the technical team, although have been given everything else, showed clips, 2 seconds clip, 1 second clip, Joy News Interactive, 30 seconds clip. And the man was, why are you showing me? Like, show me the raw footage. And they couldn't do it, right? Lack of preparation. We need to emphasize that. But I come back to the Erastus point. Erastus is the reason why the committee will get some possible closure on this matter. Without Erastus, I must actually argue, we possibly would not have the committee, because nobody would have known and seen the videos that shocked us all. The video of people, the military shooting, getting into a firing position, aiming, the people throwing stones, all that, and the live bloodied people in the hospital, dead and dying, that we saw, that shocked our conscience and forced the president to instruct the minister to. He is the reason why we are here. We shouldn't make any. We shouldn't pamper this subject. It's because of the live, unfiltered coverage, and the thing about, and it's so unfortunate for Vladimir Tridanso, a very good friend of mine, we've spoken for years, to even suggest the possibility of doctoring. And again, it also betrays a certain lack of an appreciation of what the media does and how we do our jobs, right? And I will not blame the judge. I mean, he of course is a judge. Judges are not supposed to be so, appreciative of what the media does. Vladimir Chudanso should, because he's been in the media domain for a long time. Juliet, even more so because of what she does. But a good friend of mine, a very important person in society, says to me recently, a lot of these people need media literacy. We need to train them and understand that is a part of the work, understand what media do. Again, Erastus. Without Erastus, the minister came with a video. He was asked, give us a source. He says, I won't tell you the source, but I have the video for you. You can't even trust what he's bringing. Without Erastus, that's the only video you have, a video that tells a side of the story of the man who gave the command for the military to be deployed and who eventually ended up shooting people dead. That's the only video you have. And because Erastus was there, put himself on the line, somebody died in front of him, somebody who was shielding him and his cameraman, and again, I must also celebrate the cameraman, who in spite of the bullet flying, still managed to capture all the things that you saw. Look, people who are watching and listening to us, all the videos you've seen, mostly all the video you've seen came from Erastus and his cameraman. They need to be celebrated. Having said that, the end game of this line of questioning that we saw from the beginning to the end, that's all they focused on about this hashtag descriptor on the television that was scrolling. The end game of it was captured by Vladimir Chudanso when he asked, and I quote, don't you think the media, I'm quoting, don't you think the media is to blame for some of the things that happened on the day? That's a question that he asked. So, and he was the last person to come in with a series of questions. So in their head, somehow, they form an opinion that somehow the media was to blame for the events of the day. It's so unfortunate. I mean, to even think like that and begin to ask all these questions that leads to that conclusion, that somehow the media was to blame. And the reason why I said I would jump in to answer the question you asked, Kojo, is because remember that the interrogation of Erastus on that tag, the tag that was on the screen, our screens, and by the way, for those who are wondering what the tag was, which really was a fixation of the committee, what's this? I'm quoting, we are all caca. Police arrest 2 suspects involved in a tag of hashtag Fix the Country campaigner. That's what was on the screen. That's what the committee focused the entire time on, probing and interrogating Erastus as if he was a hostile witness. I'll come to that hostile witness treatment very shortly. But that is what it was. And they became fixated on that point. And I must just clear that issue quickly. Hashtag Fix the Country campaigner. First of all, the Fix the Country campaigners themselves issued a statement. Kojo, do you remember?
Yes, I do.
They claim Kaka as one of their own. You remember?
Yeah.
Good. You also remember that the police issued a statement in which they said that link between his Fix the Country activism and social media activism and his killing is something that is of interest to investigators that they are probing. So both the police and the Fix the Country campaigners identified that link as a critical point in the investigations. If the Fix the Country campaigners claim him as such, there's absolutely nothing wrong with describing him as that. The man himself, when he was alive, was tweeting and his campaigns using the same hashtag. So let's put that aside. It wasn't an issue. But that became the focus of it. And as I illustrated, their main objective was to almost suggest that was a thing. The reason why it can be, and it will be an absurdity, to even suggest that the media coverage of the live events, contrary to the events of that day, is that particular video they were criticizing or critiquing was a video that was being beamed live as the events unfolded. Video of the events live as it unfolded. And it's so absurd to suggest that the live coverage caused the event of which the camera was covering live. I mean, Kojo, do you get the point I'm making?
I do.
So you're saying to us, almost telling us, that once we're covering live, it caused the event itself that we're covering. I mean, it just, and I've said it to make that suggestion. And again, go back to the terms of reference. Circumstances that led to. So whatever you're looking at must be things that happened prior to the events of that day that led to the unfortunate occurrences. And there's a direct quote from the terms of reference. So it can be stuff that happened while the unfortunate occurrences, and unfortunate occurrences is a direct quote from the president's word, not directive, not mine. What you are interested in is not the actual unfortunate occurrences, but what led to that. So why would you be fixated on the coverage of the occurrence and attempt to suggest that the live coverage of the occurrence caused the live events? It's just an absurdity. So the committee simply got it. It just shows a lack of preparation, understanding of what has happened, preparation leading into this, and the role of the journalist. Hashtags never killed anybody. Bullets did. Somebody fired it. Somebody ordered. You have the person who ordered the people, the deployment, sit before you, and you treat him with kid gloves. Allow him to go, not ask critical questions, when fundamentally you should be probing where was the justification. I've laid out already. And his justification when people threw stones at the vehicle that was moving. And so, in essence, there was a certain justification for the military's firing of live rounds. And when his ultimate word contradicts the police's statement that says there were people who used firearms. And so who should we believe? Is it the police that claim the protesters had firearms, or the minister who comes and omits that from his testimony?
And says they were throwing stones.
You interrogate the Rastas. And just for 1 second, I need to address this thing about hostile witness. They treat the Rastas as a hostile witness, asking him all these questions. And then Juliet turns this very important state job and national service into a journalism ethics class, coaching him about journalism ethics. Or what has the ethics got to do with the events of the day? How do you turn an inquisition where 2 people are dead, one's leg amputated, people so struggling with injuries, into an ethics class? What journalists should do and what they shouldn't do. I mean, it is just heartbreaking what happened yesterday.
I think that's an interesting point to wrap things up on, because, we do this job where it seems everybody who doesn't do our job knows how to do it better than us. And we encounter this all the time. You go on social media, you get the criticism from people who have never been journalists, but they know how you should have done your journalism. And yesterday we saw an example of that. Juliet asked Erastus whether that was the first demonstration he has ever covered, and then went into this thing about the ethics of verifying whether or not this individual belonged to Fix the Country, and whether Erastus should have done that job. And I'm curious, how do you verify whether somebody belongs to a group or not? Do you not ask the group? And is it not this group that brought this person to our attention anyway? This is the group that told us of the existence of someone called Kaka who had been attacked. It was Fix the Country that informed the nation of it in a press conference. So verify with who? Or should we have gone to the birth and death registry or somewhere to determine whether he belongs to Fix the Country? I don't know what verification the committee was speaking about. But right now, I want to say thank you to all of you, because unfortunately our time is up. We have to go. And this conversation, of course, will continue in the subsequent days as we have more and more of these hearings. Evans, what was that?
30 seconds. Again, you have to ask the question whether he's happy with his job. I mean, he was asked the question.
You have to forgive me, Evans, but we have to bring that to an end, because our time is physically up, and Corruption Watch is coming up next. Thank you for staying up this morning to join us. There will be more analysis as the days go on, no doubt. Right now, though, Corruption Watch comes up after these.
Hello. Oh, Charlie, how be? Bro, I need some help. Right, my money all finished. And month no end, so I make hot pass. I fit see some small loan for your side, I bet.
Oh, bro, Charlie, I make hot pass you. My landlord today can't take your rent.
Oh, Charlie. All right, you make a call another person. Hello. Oh, Charlie, I need some help. Oh. Right, my money all finished. And month no end. So I make hot pass. So you see, I feel. Oh.
The number you are trying to reach is not available. Please call back later.
Hey, Adane.
Kelvin.
Yes.
You make hot.
Charlie. Rough.
So make today payday with Cowbank salary advance. Get an advance of up to 80% of your net monthly salary before payday. Just visit the nearest Cowbank branch or you can call our toll-free number on 0800 500 500 to find out how you can apply today.
Cowbank, forward together.
Come here. No.
Charlie, right now, dear, the printing business slow.